Happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Live stream. I am your host, Chris Q. Murphy. I'm here as I am every Tuesday, bringing you the best in singing and songwriting from right here in Brooklyn, New York. As always, we've got a most excellent show planned for you tonight. Whether you're a new viewer or an old school viewer, we're happy to have you tonight, and we're happy to be here to share what we know and what we love about songs and songwriting. As always, I have a truly excellent guest coming up in a little while, but like I always like to do, I'm going to open up this show with a couple of songs myself. I got into the world of singing and songwriting because I'm a singer-songwriter myself, as most of you, of course, know. This first tune I'm going to do is my most recent single, and it is a special request from tonight's guest, so I'm going to go ahead and play it for you. It's a little tune called No Sand, and it goes like this. Nope, it goes like this. It was sooner than I thought it was gonna be, but somehow said it still got the best of me. I found me with my hands down, found me with my heart hanging out. And in the moment when I ordered an apology, I looked down and my pockets came up empty. I guess I'll have to pay for this in blood. Man, I hope I still have enough. No, I have nothing to give anymore. Nothing's washing ashore. No man's young or treasure. Yes, I've dug deep, and all I see is sand. And even that slips through my hand before I can measure just how much is gone. Tell me, how can you measure just how much is gone? So singing praise and gratitude's gonna help you out and remind you that you're not just a pile of doubt, but you can only try so long before you give up on the song. I try to paint a picture of despair for my friends and foes, but I scare them by it being too on the nose. Cause with abstract art, don't you know, you gotta bring your ownership to the show. Cause I have nothing to give anymore. Nothing's washing ashore. No man's young or treasure. Yes, I've dug deep, and all I see is sand. And even that slips through my hand before I can measure just how much is gone. Tell me, how can you measure just how much is gone? You're too tired to hear me out. Too tired to hear me out. But can you see me? I'm standing right here. So come on and have a look. You can't find this in a book. Come on and take me by the hand. We'll make love up here. Oh, I can't do this on my own. Let's make love up here. We'll make love up here. Cause I have nothing to give anymore. Nothing's washing ashore. No man's junk, no treasure. Yes, I dug deep, and all I see is sand. And even that slips through my hand before I can measure just how much is gone. Tell me, how can you measure just how much is gone? Thank you, Tuesday Night Live stream community. So good to see you guys out there. Woo! It's always fun to open up with that one. And again, that was a special request from tonight's special guest, who we'll have come on in just a couple of minutes. That one, of course, is called No Sand. It is my most recent single. For those of you who are a fan of the song, I urge you to go back and listen to it again, stream it 700 more times, watch the video created by Gary Malfa over on YouTube. The links are all somewhere or other. If you really like that song, I have some fun news. Check it out, all right? Right now, I have some very special friends cooking up new versions of that song to get re-released later on this year as another single. That's right. I am re-releasing No Sand in a couple of different forms later on, likely the end of May or the beginning of June. I'm very, very excited. I have some excellent friends who are working remotely on adding things like drums and electric guitars and all sorts of crazy shit to both No Sand and to the B-side, Mr. Tree, and I'm going to be releasing all of that later on this year. Very stoked. Speaking of friends, I also have some friends who are absolutely fantastic songwriters, just totally marvelously gifted people. And one of those people is my pal, Dave Keener. Dave Keener hosts the Songwriter Deathmatch series at Freddy's in South Slope. He is also the creator and the co-host of Songwriter Deathmatch Radio, which is on Maker Park Radio out of Staten Island. He does it with Karen Dahlstrom. Dave Keener is a fantastic guy and a fantastic writer, somebody that can, one of the few that can really combine melody and humor in equal parts, because I know some humorous songwriters that write pretty melodically boring songs, and I know some incredibly melodically interesting songwriters that have no sense of humor whatsoever. Dave very deftly combines both of them. And he and I both share this kind of like post-American songbook, Brill building, Beatles, Elvis Costello, rock and roll arch songwriter thing. And Dave came out with a new single earlier this week. I believe it came out this weekend. It's a new song called Put Me With the People. And it actually, it punches me right in my target demographic. And it's a wonderfully fabulous song. And aside from listening to it a couple of dozen times today, aside from sending him a text way before he was awake this morning to let him know what I thought of it, I also feel like the best way that I can pay tribute to this truly excellent song is to go ahead and try to bring it out to the world myself. Now, I don't know if my version is going to be nearly as beautiful and have as much impact as the original Dave Keener version. And by searching Dave Keener, Keener, wherever you stream music, you can listen to the original version of the song Put Me With the People. As for right now, you're going to have to put up with my version of a truly excellent song. Let's get some action in the chat talking about this one, if you would. And I'll pass the night's words along to Dave later on this evening. So here's the Dave Keener song, Put Me With the People. I did a lot of work I didn't want to do. I made some compromises and not just a few, to put some money in my hard little hands, have a home and family like I always planned. No, life, it isn't over, but over half done. A man can't help but think about the world to come. St. Peter, don't you put me with fools like me. Let me bring my guitar to eternity, and put me with the people that play the rock and roll, with the people that play the rock and roll. Just count me in, I'll hold it down. I just want to hear the angels play that crazy sound. I played a lot of bars, I had a lot of fun. But 13 years later, when the gig was done, the tip jar was empty, and so was I. I let the devil point me to the simple life. I was tired of getting older all alone, a geezer with illusions out of Rolling Stone. But it takes more guts than that to be a star like them. St. Peter, can't you sneak me into heaven's jam and put me in with the people who play the rock and roll, with the people who play the rock and roll. Just count me in, I'll hold it down. I just want to hear the angels play that crazy. Put me with the people that play the rock and roll, with the people that play the rock and roll. They won't mind a bit, I'll fit right in, because when I was a younger man, I rocked just like them. St. Peter said, how can I make this clear? What you do down here, there is what you do up here. He took me in an office full of fools like me, left me there for what seemed like eternity. But when the clock struck 5, I heard the strangest sound. I peeked out of my cubicle and looked around. From under every desk came an old 6-string. All those fools like me began to play and sing. Put me with the people that play the rock and roll. With the people that play the rock and roll. Just count me in, I'll hold it down. I just want to hear the angels play that crazy. Put me with the people that play the rock and roll. With the people that play the rock and roll. They won't mind a bit, I'll fit right in. Because when I was a younger man, I rocked just like them. Put Me With the People by Dave Keener, a fantastic Brooklyn-based songwriter. Please check out his music whenever you can. Really, really great stuff. Beautiful, beautiful, poignant things. I absolutely love that song, and I'll probably have another stab at it at some point if I don't chicken out. You know, I think songwriters should be playing one another's songs, especially independent songwriters that are out there doing the thing, that don't have an industry machine behind them. It is maybe possible to gain some steam as a performer or an artist without that huge industry push behind you. But in order to make that happen, you really need a community of people around you. They're going to help you not rise above the fray, but rise up with the fray, ride that wave into a wider recognition full of people that support and love you. Because confidence and support are contagious, right? When people see that other people like something, they're like, oh, that's cool. I could like that too. And when you roll out with a crew and you roll out with a scene, suddenly you not only have supportive people around you that love you and your music, but people that look like they were already your fans, right? So we do that by playing one another's songs. My good friend E.W. Harris refers to those as community covers. Now, I fucking hate the word cover. I have all sorts of issues with the word cover that maybe we'll get into during another episode. But I've talked enough for the moment. Speaking of community and speaking of songwriter friends, I am excited to bring out tonight's guest. Because whereas I can see eye to eye with Dave Keener, who I was talking about before, and the way he writes material, I have absolutely no fucking clue how tonight's guest does it. I have sat there many a time and kind of marveled at her combinations of chords, about melodic twists and turns that I just wouldn't think of. And sure, there are always going to be musicians that do things differently than you do, or things that you wouldn't expect. But because it's packaged in a framework that is so relatable and so melodic, it always throws me for this awesome little loop. When I hear her make one of these changes, like, oh, that chord has a major 7 in it for no fucking apparent reason. Oh, that note is in a funny place for that lyric. I bet that was really intentional. And believe it or not, despite the fact that I've heard her play so many of these songs so many times, I've never been in a position to sit down and be like, listen, tell me what the fuck you're doing, because it's awesome and I want to be able to do it too. So hopefully tonight we'll have an opportunity to do that as we get through an interview and hear some songs from tonight's special guest. Ladies, gentlemen, and anybody who identifies any other way, welcome Bexarkana to the show. Bex, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome.
Chris Q. Murphy, hi. It's so nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's been a minute. Aside from watching you on the internet, seeing some of your live streams, I haven't seen you in so damn long. How are things?
I'm good. I have to thank you though, because like you started up your live stream really early in the pandemic, and it was such a source of light and inspiration in a time where I felt very disconnected, from artistic community, and just knowing you were doing that and being able to dip in and then see people that I know and hear more of your songs. It was very meaningful. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, you're welcome. It served as a real um, balancing point for me as well. When I was looking down the pipe of what was going to be a very long amount of time inside very few people, I realized the things that usually make me thrive as a musician were not going to be immediately available to me. And I saw other musicians already jump into the live stream game, and nobody had claimed Tuesdays yet in my little circle of people. And I was like, maybe if I do Tuesday, everybody's at fucking home. They'll have something to do. I went out in my shed and did a show that was entirely too loud.
Oh, wow.
And then I went in my shed the next week and did one again. And my wife was like, the thing about the shed, I think the neighbors are getting a little more of a show at 9 o'clock at night than you think they're getting.
Oh, no.
So luckily I made arrangements to be able to do this show somewhere else. But yeah, I took a few weeks off, regrouped, and I'm happy to report that at some point later this month, I'll be celebrating a full year of these shows. I missed like a few weeks here and there for random reasons, like 2 or 3 weeks, I think. But I've been doing these shows for almost a year, and I have had guests on the show since the first week of August, with only 1 or 2 exceptions, because I had one guest come on once, and a handful of people that had watched the show a few times were like, that was cool. You need to do that again. I loved hearing you guys talk about songs. And so I called up another friend and I was like, hey, you want to come on my show on Tuesday? And she said, yeah. You know who you should have next time? And I was like, oh, there's next time? And then I was hosting a talk show. And I got to tell you, it's been a fucking lot of fun. And it's been an opportunity to talk to people who I haven't seen in a minute.
Yeah. And also, I feel like even when we hang out at Song Club, we get to hear each other's work, right? We don't often like get under the hood or like really get into it, because there's so many people there. And
exactly.
It's a little, I always feel like it's like, oh, there's 50 people in this room that I want to talk to.
There's a handful of Song Club people I've had come on the show, and I felt like it's the longest and most serious conversation I've had with any of them for exactly that reason. Yeah. For those of you out there that don't know what we're talking about, Bex and I are both members of the Big City Folk Song Club community, where we gather weekly. I mean, some number of us gather every week at XYZ Bar in New York City, and we play our songs. It's not an open mic. It's more like a curated mic where members are always welcome to come along and new members are welcome to join, as long as they roll up and show us that they take their craft seriously. It's not all about genre, and it's not always even about who writes the best or worst songs. It's about people that come through and want to like up their game as songwriters and support other people in the same endeavor. Some people that come to the group are moderately famous. I will say that I've got to sit next to Anais Mitchell at a song club once. That was fucking crazy.
Wow.
And some people are playing in public for like the first or second time. And it's nice to see that as long as everybody brought songs, everybody's kind of treated the same. And that's awesome. So Bex and I know each other this way, and we've seen each other at a bar watching one another play or watching somebody else we know play, but you don't get to have conversations more than 5 or 10 minutes without like either missing somebody else's shit or, scratching down your own lyrics to the new song that you just wrote that morning.
Yes, I've been guilty of that. I'm like, oh, I just need 2 more lines for the end.
And that's when you make them up on the fly.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen each other thanks to this fun big pandemic. And in a text exchange leading up to the show, you said something that I really enjoyed about kind of the pandemic mentality that so many people have had. And I want to get into that in a minute, but I've been asking just about every songwriter that's come on the show over the last year, when you've spent more time at home than you probably have in a long time, in terms of both quantity and quality, do you feel like you wrote as much, more, or less as you would have in any other year?
I think I more consistently impulsed into some sort of capture. So like I
Oh,
felt like there was something about being disconnected from my artistic community, and also just I live alone, like disconnected from people. There was something very life affirming about any creative impulse that I had. So I would say, just I mean, like capturing a song seed into my phone or whatever. I sometimes I get in that habit of I'm like, oh, that's not a really good idea. But like I captured so much more, and I think I was better for it because even though I haven't necessarily developed them all into songs yet, I feel like when I like scroll through and listen back, I'm like, oh, there's something there. Like even though maybe in the pre times I wouldn't have taken that flash seriously, if that makes sense.
yeah, totally.
Um, I'm so lucky that I had a day job when this all happened that happened to be for a company that does digital events. So it happened to be a company that got maybe busier than we'd ever been. So I was in this extremely fortunate position, but also like had less time to write than I've probably had in many years. And so it felt very much like I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm gonna have a creative impulse. And if I have one, I'm gonna honor it kind of thing. So
No,
not that many songs. I would say I probably only wrote 3 songs, but lots of like half written and then lots more like kind of mapped out, if that makes sense. I'm a very slow. I'm not. So a few of them come to me like in a flash of inspiration. Most of them take me a real long time.
I feel that. Also, voice memos is every songwriter's friend. I don't know if the light will focus. I'm in pretty white light, but like, no, it's not going to focus for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can,
There we go. It's just like song idea after song idea.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about, but that idea of capturing the impulse. And I'm hoping that later on in the show, we can talk a little bit about what developing that impulse looks like, because it's so many different for so many people. And I think the process of going from impulse to written song is one that is misunderstood or misconstrued by a lot of non-songwriters. And there are a handful of non-songwriters that tune in every week that I think like hearing that stuff. But I am happy to report that you fall into the two big, feast or famine categories that people have fallen to. Like some people have said, I wrote 137 songs and I put out 19 albums. And other people were like, I wrote 2.5 songs. So you are not alone in either the capture, the impulse, or the actual production. So
well, I want to be clear, like the people that are like, yeah, I wrote 8 albums. I'm like, that is fucking awesome. Like it's like, no, it doesn't make me feel, it's not like a competition, at all.
Right.
I just was not even like emotionally in a place where I was like ready to like synthesize into output, I think,
Oh, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, it was like literally like 3 or 4 weeks into the pandemic, that article started circulating around that was like, Shakespeare wrote King Lear during the plague. And I was like, and I couldn't actually name, I was like, this is super inspiring. Yes, Shakespeare's super, he's got a voluminous output. Also, something about this makes me feel weird, but I couldn't name it. And then a few weeks later, a friend sent me another thing that was like, yeah, let us not focus on output in this crazy time. And it was really a gift to have that named for me, where I was like, right, we're going through something that's very traumatic, and the creative processing of this moment is going to look as different as there are artists in the world. And that for me helped.
Great. That's really great, because I've had similar mixed feelings about that mentality of like, this is the time that we learn to do a million things.
Right.
Because too much pressure. I really appreciate that you're willing to say out loud that no, we're under no pressure to do a million things right now.
Well, also like for me, what's so beautiful is if an artist is like, I've got this time alone, I'm gonna woodshed, and I'm gonna do these things that I don't normally have the time to do, or I'm gonna write some songs that maybe wouldn't necessarily be on what's expected for the next album. I'm gonna, if it inspires you to become massively productive, that's amazing. But this idea that from free time must come output, I just am like, especially like those things that were like, yeah, if you don't come out of the pandemic with a new skill set, what were you doing? I'm like, a lot of things.
Yeah.
We were all doing a lot of things, and that is to me, that feels like such an offshoot of something that's sick in our culture right now.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because not to get too deep, but I was having a pretty heavy conversation with one of the people I work with just this morning about like kind of a capitalist versus a socialist mindset. And that it's not just about philosophy. No, it's not just about doctrine and practice. It is about philosophy. It's about the things that you most deeply believe. And it seems like such a disgusting capitalist mindset to be like, oh, you have time? Make things quick, more. And I feel like the pandemic in many ways was a referendum on that kind of thinking. We're all able to take stock of what we really value and what we really need to get done as people. And I really appreciate you saying out loud that you didn't feel the need to get a lot done, because as an anti-capitalist, it makes me feel a lot better.
I recently read a quote by Amanda Gorman, and I'm going to totally misquote it, so I encourage everyone to like actually look it up. But she was like, it was something along the lines of, it doesn't matter how many poems or pieces you've ever made, it just matters if it connected with one person, or even the intention that it was made in, to connect. And I thought that was really beautiful, pushing against the idea that like, I don't even know how to understand you as an artist if I can't be shown the thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's a gorgeous thought. I love it.
I'll try to find it and post it on the Count comments later.
Yeah, I'm just living with it for a minute, because that is both selfishly affirming and universally good feeling. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm gonna go find the exact quote and sit with it, because I feel like we've all been looking to Amanda Gorman as a source of inspiration. Seriously. As of late, so.
And what was striking to me is I think you often hear the like, even if it connects with people, or even if it matters to one person, and she takes it further and she's like, no, and even it's about the intention with which it was made, or you live your days, or whatever that was. And it was like a step further that I found beautiful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You want to play some songs for us? Sorry, there was a hard left, but I was getting antsy for music. I'm gonna get off the screen and completely cede it to you, because that's one of the cool things that StreamYard lets me do.
I'm gonna attempt to like be a StreamYard DJ this Saturday, and I am in awe of you, because it's already like 100% overwhelming to me.
Dude, I gotta tell you, StreamYard makes shit so easy.
Awesome.
Like it's really just like doot, 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 and it's done. And I haven't even done any of the cool scrolling graphics in the bottom of the screen, make my shit look like MSNBC or something.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to shut up and get out of the way for a minute. If you're just tuning in, this is the Tuesday Night Live Stream. I'm your host, Chris Q. Murphy, and this is tonight's guest, Bexarkana. She's going to play a couple of songs for you right now. Let's call it 2. I'm going to get off the screen, get out of the way, and then we'll come back and talk some more. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bexarkana, take it away.
This first one is one that just started to mean more to me as the pandemic was beginning. It was a song that sort of got considered in a new light with everything that was kind of going on. New Year, still here. Fireplaces glowing down the block. All I do is walk. Cold feet, songs on repeat, and eucalyptus greets my lungs, sharp and strong. The road is long. Get inside of the feeling. Come alive like six strings dancing on me. Me inside of the feeling. Strong, strong, just get inside of the feeling. Come alive like a days of kids and cars, wide horizons, and girls and their guitars till you hear me. Till you hear skinny dips and old stick shifts, and duct tape can fix each and every wrong. The road is long. Get inside of the feeling. Come alive like six strings dancing on me. Me inside of the feeling. Strong, strong, just get inside of the feeling. Come alive like a days of gigs and bars, sweet confusion with girls and their guitars. Oh, how did you get so onto me? You've always been so onto me. You see through me, straight to me, through me, straight to concrete and whiskey's neat, and those sneakered feet there make me feel so very strong. The road is long. Get inside of the feeling. Come alive like six strings dancing on me. Me inside of the feeling. Strong, strong, just get inside of the feeling. But these days you've gone so far, and me and you's just a song on my guitar. Oh, how did you get so far from me? Late night inside a melody. Can you feel me? Can you still feel? Old dreams and playground schemes and our long gone teens, they still haunt me, dark and strong. Road is cold feet, songs on repeat, and eucalyptus greets my lungs, sharp and strong. The road is long. That's that one. That's inside of the feeling. And then I thought I would do one of the ones that I have written during the pandemic. And this one is called 3 Words Against the Wind. If I had $1 for each time I did you wrong, a chance to show up strong. But all of this time, you're still my sky. Baby, to build to life, what else was I to do? Sure as the smoke that chokes the pine. And I had a sleepless night, I bet that you did too. Just gotta know if it's goodbye is such an easy word to say, but it's the hardest thing to do. And I would quit you, and I tried. And now, and now, Casey is binding now, he's gonna melt some hearts. It's good to see him so alive. No one can pay their rent nowhere around these parts. All of our 10 came down to 5. I hang with a different pack, there's no one that you know. The beer is shit, but the music's fine. And each time we drive to town, get a dirty look or two, just like I did when you were mine. Is such an easy word to say, but it's the hardest thing to do. And I would quit you, and I've tried. Goodbye is such an easy word to say, but it's the hardest thing to do. And if you need my song, I'll come running. Need to belong, I'll come running to your morning light. Now you're calling again. Now you're calling again. Now you're calling again. 3 words against the wind. Now you're calling again. 3 words against the wind. Now you're calling again.
Oh my God, that song is so fucking good.
Oh gosh, thanks. That's kind.
Oh my God. Oh, we're talking about that one.
All right.
Woo, we're definitely talking through that one a little bit because, yeah. Bexarkana, everybody. Give her a round of applause from wherever you are. And make sure that if you want to see what she's doing when she's not on my show, you check her out on the Instagram and the Facebook at Bexarkana. You can find her at those places. And we'll talk more about how often she's performing during the pandemic as well, because you'll have plenty of other chances to see her. So I'm going to give you some options. We can go in either direction right now. We can either break down what your songwriting process or one of your songwriting processes might look like, or we can talk a little about your history and not the influences conversation, but your background as a musician, because there are some like trained musician-y things that slip in sometimes, but there are other things in your music that are signifiers of the fact that like, I don't know. I'm very curious because of so many of your musical choices. So which thing do you want to talk about right now?
I mean, we could, yeah, all of it.
All right, cool.
Just quickly, I'm not really a trained musician, but I have been a trained actor since I was 5 years old. And so like I've sort of had a lot of music adjacent training. So I've had a lot of music training, but not to be a musician.
Okay.
So I definitely just like follow my ears, and a lot of my songs I don't even know what chords I'm playing. I'm in the process of trying to like write lead sheets, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's that, because I just don't work that way. But I'm aspiring to like learn all that stuff. Obviously, like I lived across the street from a luthier growing up, and in high school I took like 1 year. A guy was there, a great fingerstyle player, so I took a couple years of guitar, but really just learned like open chords, and took those 16 open chords with me like all through college, and then a lot of my years in New York. But when I was doing study abroad in Spain, I got exposed to Silvio Rodriguez, who is an amazing singer-songwriter from Cuba.
Okay.
And like just was so he inspired me. I was like, I have to learn how to play the guitar better, because I want to be able to do things that I cannot come close to do, and I still can't come close to doing what he does. But it was such, I sort of feel like I was like, oh, I want to get serious about this. And that came in levels. So at first that just meant like, learning chords that weren't open chords, and then just kind of, he's so technically amazing that that's like a lifelong, it's like, no, go deeper.
Yeah. I mean, it's so odd to me to hear that you don't have a lot of experience, or I guess you do have more. Whenever I hear the major sevens in here, whenever I hear diminished chord in your music, whenever I hear you make certain harmonic motions, it doesn't sound like somebody that just knows how to play their open chords. But I will say the fact that you studied for a while with a fingerstyle player says a lot about the consistency of your right hand, which I've always really admired. That your right hand, whether you're really driving a song or really just like touching it gently, you're really super specific with what you're doing with your picking hand, and that explains a lot of it. Then what do you listen to? What songs did you learn to play on? Like, who did you learn to write songs by listening to? And I'm sure you're still learning, of course, but
early, I think one of the things is I grew up in the Bay Area, and I was exposed to a lot of different kinds of music. I don't have siblings, so I didn't listen to necessarily a ton of popular music, but I did listen to a wide range of like eclectic music. And like as a little actor, I was like sometimes in shows where there was like a taiko drum ensemble, and so then I would like go see taiko I mean, just like I feel so many different like things came together, and I like loved it all. I remember listening to a lot of like the Beach Boys and like Frankie Valli when I was like maybe in 4th or 5th grade, like that kind of like stacked harmony and all. Like I feel like you do a lot of this too, just these beautiful chord progressions that feel both surprising and inevitable in terms of their satisfyingness. Like I feel like you've got a real that's like something you do well as well. Like I don't know, like I guess. And so yeah, my influences are all over the place. I listened to like, I don't know, a lot of Prince, a lot of Nirvana, a lot of hip hop, a lot of Joan Baez, because I grew up in Berkeley.
I listen to more Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen than I should have, because I grew up in New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
You can't escape that shit, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. Gives me a lot of stuff to think about, because like I said before you came on, your songwriting has really been something of a mystery to me. I haven't been able to like unwind some of it in my mind, and that's just something I do as an analyst, as a musicologist, as a trained musician. My natural thing is to break shit down and figure out how it works. I mean, even when I'm learning non-musical things, I want to learn about process. So you are one person that I've watched many times and been like, what informed that choice? And hearing what you're telling me tonight, it answers some of those questions, but I appreciate that some of it's still a mystery. I do appreciate mentioning Prince and Nirvana in the same sentence. Uh, that's always a good thing. And I think it's also important to any singer-songwriters out there to know that even though they weren't necessarily just strumming an acoustic guitar, that like both Prince and Kurt Cobain were singer-songwriters. You know, they wielded different weapons, but at the end of the day, you can sit down with just an acoustic guitar and play most of Nirvana's best stuff, most of Prince's best songs.
Yeah, they all hold up. They all hold up. I mean, there's such beautiful melodies. Both, I mean, I feel like both of them a lifetime of things to learn, you know. And what's exciting to me is like I'm very stubborn, but I'm also just like I feel like I'm very new on this journey. Like especially when I like compare, like I've been obsessing about acting my entire life, and now I've like just started to think about music in this way, but starting to break down songs, or like I have this one song where it's like I can't understand why, but this one thing reminds me of this Nirvana song. And so just being able to slowly get almost like learning a new language, like figure out, oh, this is why this is like my ears knew the connection, but now being able to like figure that out so that I could repeat it if I wanted to, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
To continue that language acquisition analogy, it's like picking up the syntax and not just the vocabulary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now that you've neatly segued into the idea of talking about writing and that reminding you of, and the process being, let's say you have that spark and you capture that little bit of information on your good old voice memos app. What happens then? What happens then? Or what might happen then? I'm sure it's different from time to time.
Yeah, it happens in a couple different ways. I brought those two songs because those both came from very different inspirations.
Okay.
Like the first song, it came from, I was just warming up, and I often just warm up finger style, just doing Landslide. Like so. And then I was like, okay, well, let me try to like challenge it and add a little hammer.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I got there, I was like, oh, if I swing that. And as soon as I got that, I don't know, like then a door opened in my brain. I was like, oh, I see I understand I'm in a room where I can now like build this whole song. So that was like a purely musical way in.
Can we talk about that room?
Yeah.
Does that mean the chord choices you're going to make, or does that mean like the part of your voice that you're going to use? Because you have a really wide range, and you often use a lot of it in any one given song. But when you say that it unlocks a room, what's in that room?
It literally feels like, I wouldn't say it's like, oh, I know now what chords, because like I don't even know what chords are in that song, but it comes, I think, from being an actor, and so much of what I do, especially if it's like film, television work, it's entirely self-generated. So I'm literally standing on a spot, hitting my light, and I'm bringing a whole world in my imagination to tell the story. And so I feel like one of the so many things help me do that, a clear sense of the place I'm in, and a clear sense of who I am and who I'm talking to and my point of view. Those are all things. And so I feel like, with writing a song, I don't often get all of those, but often I'll be like, oh, I understand where I am now. I have the cinematic snapshot. It's like by opening the door, I guess I feel like there's enough there where I can like walk in the room, and I I don't know, like the actor in me, which is like the process that I'm used to, knows how to stand there and ask questions that'll get me there. It's like I know where it wants to go, even if I don't know what that'll look like.
So, no, that's incredible. That I love hearing that. That's why we're here. By the way, just rewinding for a second, meta commentary as somebody that does this every week, and you saying, as trained actor, hit your light. Your light game is so fucking on point right now. Usually, every week, I sit under this incredibly like blue, like LED light that's above me, just because it's the best light in this coffee shop where I broadcast from.
Yeah.
And usually, I'm like, I look kind of dope because other people are in their bedrooms with no fucking light on anything. But we will definitely talk when the show is over about exactly what you're doing right now. Because I've done some experimenting and it never looks as fucking awesome as you do.
I think your show always looks fantastic, I have to
Thank
say.
you.
I mean, that's such a funny thing. Like, everybody's Zooming now, and we take in so much like subliminal information by just like how things look in a way that like it's kind of erased traditional status roles, because it's like you could be the highest status person on the Zoom, but if your lighting is really bad, it's hard to maintain that status. Like, it's fascinating to me.
It's funny you bring that up. I've tried to. Now you have a career in digital event production, so
That's my day job, yeah.
Right, but so like you can speak to it from a very professional standpoint. I don't know shit about that, but I've been saying to my fellow teachers that like when they're teaching remotely, I'm like, you are competing with YouTubers. You cannot sit at your dining room table with no fucking lights on, hoping that the microphone on your fucking 16-year-old Dell computer is gonna sound good enough. These kids are watching fucking YouTubers that have a couple $1,000s worth of gear.
And not for nothing, spend all day on it. Like, I spend all day on a self-tape. So in a way, it's so unfair, right? It's like setting us all up to try to live our lives digitally against this comparison with that, like, it's like little mini film production. You know what I mean? Like, it's so unfair.
The other side of that, though, is that, like, if you're willing to take the time, you could get yourself a decent light source, a decent reflector, and a USB microphone, all for under $100, like total. And you might not look like that fucking YouTuber,
right?
But you're gonna look like 34 times better than 90% of the people that are sitting on that Zoom or that meet with you right now. And that's just, I'm excited. I feel kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel validated by hearing a professional say that, because I've been trying to drive that point home with teachers since last March.
It's so hard too, because everybody has a different level of like comfortability with it's a very unnatural thing, you know. Even just making eye contact like with the camera is the least, this is the least, I'm not looking at anything, you know. It's like, it's crazy what we're asking people to do.
Right. Well, you're crushing it. Hooray. But I swear we're going to talk about songs.
I want to hear more songs from you, though. I was delighted that you did No Sand, because I love that song, and I love that you did Dave Keener's. I love his Death Match and the radio, and also the fact that you're like, oh, I loved this song, so I just learned it. I was like, oof, very aspirational to me.
Yeah, I heard it this morning, and I was like, this song is incredible. I have to play it. I have to play this song. Is my band going to play it at our next show? I'm going to play it tonight. I'm going to learn this shit and play it tonight. So I listened to it dozens of times. Anyway, such a good song. Oh my God. He's so clever.
And like, I feel like you were saying about his stuff, like this, like throwback to the Brill Building. Like, I feel this with a lot of your songs too. I'm like, oh, they're in conversation with these like classic, well-made songs in a way that I find like deeply satisfying.
I mean, I can tell you, I literally am like that is really what I study it, you know, like I because I'm a music teacher, because I'm a musicologist, because I've been writing songs since I was a teenager. Like when I'm sitting down and playing through a Carole King song, I'm not just playing the Carole King song because I fucking love it, because often I do, but because like I want to see how this machine works, because I want to be able to repurpose that in my own artistic vision. You know, that's always what I've been about. I can remember learning how to use a minor 4 chord, like an F minor in the key of C, as a teenager by listening to some Beatles song that had a minor 4 chord in it. And I had never heard that song before. And I had very limited theory knowledge. And I was just like, that sounds really dramatic when they do that. And suddenly, like, every song I wrote for fucking 6 months was like minor 4 chord, dramatic moment. And I feel like there are certain sounds, certain progressions, certain rooms, if you will, like you said before, that certain songwriters just like live in. And the ones that I gravitate towards the most, because they are that perfect balance of craft and concept, are the classic post-American songbook songwriters like Carole King, like later on somebody like Elvis Costello. As much as I do better work, like singing more R&B type material, and that's what I do with my band these days, and we're more successful with, I can't tap in to that tradition of writing. Maybe because I don't have enough experience with it, maybe because I'm a white dude, but it's not something that makes sense to me on a cosmic level. But like I grew up with my mother listening to, you know, Light FM in the car. So like Carole King, Barry Manilow, Seals and Crofts, Carly Simon, all this music that at that point was 10-ish years old.
Yeah.
Like songs written by professional songwriters working on this tradition. So when I go to make a move, it's like always from there. Like that's just the language that I speak.
Yeah, that's the DNA playbook.
Oh, totally. That's one of the reasons that I've always loved Elvis Costello as a songwriter, because whether you're talking about like, you know, young quasi-punky Elvis Costello or wannabe, you know, Americana Elvis Costello from the mid 2000s, he is also pulling from that same tradition where, you know, everything is very structured, but the rather than the function following the form, the craft kind of supports the concept. You have the concept, you have the inspiration, and you use the craft in order to drive the thing home.
Yeah, there's no extra bathrooms in that house. Like he knew how many bathrooms in the house before he started.
Which also can be limiting because do you know Brooke Pridemore? They're another New York City songwriter. They really, really fantastic songs. And they told me in an interview back in December that they work more along the lines of like the channeling model of songwriting. And I was fucking pissed. I was like, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you. I love your songs. And you're telling me that you can just like channel that shit? And they're like, well, yeah, that's the only way I can write. I can't really get too bogged down my craft. I like verses and choruses, sure. But beyond that, like, I just wait for it to happen. And I was like, and I've tried to like allow myself to do that. I can't. I can't do it. I got to get my hands on it. And yeah.
Do you have a very codified process? Like you always start with either the music or the lyrics or the...
No, it's not like that. I have some codified processes that if I wind up going in one direction, I have something that will help me get it home. Like I can force myself to finish this shit. And then like if I revise it because I think it's worth a damn, then that's a whole other process. But otherwise, like if I start a song and I decide I'm going to finish it, whether it's wonderful or terrible, as long as I have the time to do it, I fucking finish it. That doesn't mean like I finish everything I start. That sounds cocky as hell. But like if there's a song that I'm working on and I think it is good enough to finish, I have a toolkit that will allow me to finish the song. Or a couple of toolkits, depending on the direction it seems to be going in. And a lot of that has to do with, word processing on the computer, not even kidding. Like I have a colored lyric system.
Oh,
where I
wow.
change the color of the fonts based on things that like I'm pretty sure I'm keeping.
Oh.
I know I really need to change, things that I'm on the fence about. I do a mixture of editing as I go and editing later. I have always had a knack for chord progressions, like even as a young kid, like once I started learning how to play, I could pick up songs really quickly. Like I can still remember how to play songs that friends of mine wrote like 20 years ago. I can't remember lyrics to songs I wrote 3 weeks ago, but I can remember the chord progression of some shit that my friends wrote a long time ago. So because my kind of ear is there, I swear I was going somewhere with this. I might have lost the thread. I don't know. The point I was making is that I forget where I was entirely. I don't know. I was saying something about process or processes.
You were saying that it's not exactly the same process.
Oh, right. It depends on
kind of multiple tools in the
depends
belt.
on where the song kind of goes.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that once I have a musical and lyrical idea stretched out, or excuse me, sketched out, I can kind of put the guitar down or step away from the piano and just kind of type the rest of the song in my head. Like I kind of know how the verse goes. Like I wrote one verse with the guitar in my hand or at the piano or whatever instrument I'm playing in the moment. Like I did that already. Now I kind of know how it goes, and I can imagine the chord progression in my head enough that I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to write the lyrics or try to write the lyrics that go with it. And then what winds up happening as a result of that is I write too many syllables or not enough syllables, and it forces me in the moment to somehow edit the melody that I was working on, edit the phrasing that I was working on, which means that I might go back to the verse that I already wrote 10 minutes ago and make some changes in there because I like the rhythm in this new verse better. And then when I feel like I've written the whole thing, because I've either A, memorized the musical part of it, or B, recorded myself playing like one verse and one chorus, it could be like 2 days later or 2 weeks later when I feel like the lyrics are in a done-ish fashion, then I'll pick up the guitar again. We'll go back to the piano and like play it for myself for the first time.
Then you can really hear it with objective ears. That's cool.
I try to, and to take that a step further, one of the things that I have done over the last year, I haven't written a ton of new material in the pandemic. I have in 2021, just because I really forced myself to. I've written a lot for me, but throughout the rest of 2020, I wrote like one song. But I finished or revised like 10 or 12 songs
That's huge.
that were like kind of done. And one of the ways I did it was by playing them on this show every week.
Oh, and then that told you.
Yeah, like I'm doing that on a song that I think is very strong right now. I think it's a great I think it's a solid core framework for a song. I wrote it in February, and now I'm just playing it as much as I can, because every time I play it, I'm like, nope, that line doesn't work.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, what? I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is, it's too long. I think it's too, like, some songwriters are like, I can't write songs longer than 2 minutes. I can't write a song less than fucking 8 minutes sometimes, and it makes me crazy. So this one, I think, is like, it's a little too long. Both the second and the third verses need to be cut, I would say, in half. Like, I want to get to the next chorus already. I just feel like it should happen now, but then it doesn't. I can play it right now.
I would love to hear it. Yeah.
People that have been listening for the last couple of weeks have heard it. It's another big, dumb emo pop song like No Sand. There's a part of me, my second life as a songwriter kind of happened in the early 2000s, the late 90s, early. That was like my second life as a songwriter. And like, I was listening to a lot of the like emo and punk influenced power pop of that time. Even though I was like slightly too old for it, like I was a huge Saves the Day fan. I was like the oldest dude rocking a Saves the Day hoodie at any show that I went to. And by oldest, I mean I was like 24 and they were 16. But there's a whole part of me as a writer that's like, I'm going to write big, dumb emo pop songs. That's what I call them. And like No Sand is an example of one of those.
I'm going to have to check out Saves the Day.
Oh my God, Saves the Day from Princeton, New Jersey. They're still around, still put out records. Oh, wow. I think they only have one original member at this point.
Oh, wow.
But they started out as like a very straight ahead, like pop punk band. And just like even by their second album, we're starting to work in they were like 16 when their first record came out. They were starting to work in slightly more mature themes and more of like a kind of dramatic, sweeping emo bent to what they were doing. And by the time they put out their third full length called Stay What You Are, it's a fucking masterpiece. Like it is to a certain extent, it's like whiny white boy music. Like it cannot escape that. And as long as you're willing to endure the fact that any time you step into the universe of emo pop or pop punk, it is annoying white boy music. As long as you can like deal with that part of it, it is of the greatest magnitude. The songs are solid. The production is solid. It's just really good. And as somebody that was still playing loud music, but had listened to enough melodic music and gone to music school at that point, it was really a nice nexus for me to stumble into. But let me pull up the lyrics, because like I said, I can't memorize shit. Even though this song, like I literally probably sang it out loud like 2 days ago, and I was talking to a friend about editing it less than that, I still haven't memorized it. So let me zoom out a little bit so I can see the whole thing. This is a song called Believers. All right, this is one of the new ones. And we want to see another cool feature in. You see that one? So it's like you're still here with me because we're talking about the song, and there's some big performance, but it's still like me doing the song.
That's so cool. Can you do that from your phone, or do you have to do it from the desktop?
You can do it from your phone. It's obviously a little clunkier.
Yeah.
I've done some experiments where I've done one show where I was using my phone as the audio video source and using an iPad to like kind of control the show and like bring in and out like these scrolling banners and stuff like that. And they're all just pre-written, you know, like,
yeah. And
I have them for every show.
Cool.
But yeah, anyway, I'll do Believers. It's maybe not the best guitar for it, but here we go. I know this square mile like the back of my hand, Everything that happens here is holy and or grand, and the shouts of the doubters and the haters, they don't mean a thing to me. There's a preacher to the west and a doctor down south, and a man who makes electricity just by moving his mouth. They say my life has meaning, so they mean everything to me. Still, I don't know you, you don't know me, yet somehow we're sure of who we're gonna be. Believers, we're gonna be believers. Believers, we're gonna be believers. Believers, we're gonna be believers. We're gonna be believers. Came down as a reckless child, grew up a dreaming sage, conducted decisions efficiently, ruled it like a page. Found my voice in heresy, in hopes that you would sing to me. If you give me a boom bap beat, you know I'm gonna rock it. I've got an orchestra right here in my pocket. These words, these memories, they mean everything to me. Still, I don't know you, you don't know me, yet somehow we're sure of who we're gonna be. Believers, we're gonna be believers. Believers, we're gonna be believers. Believers, we're gonna be believers. We're gonna be believers. For better or worse, don't let down your guard. You clutch the faith like a victory, yeah, they control the cause. For better or worse, just hold your ground. Don't leave this forever folding town. When did you tire of the mystery? When did you grow old? Learn to voice your suspicions about the stories he told. Boiled it down to a spirit. That voice took everything from me. So take a bus to the city or just jump off castle roofs. Meditate on the battlefield. Do you think you found the truth? But I'll say in abject certainty, don't even say a thing to me. But I don't know you, you don't know me, and somehow I'm sure of who I'll always be. Believer, I'm gonna be a believer. Believer, I am a believer. I say in abject certainty, yes, I am a believer. For better or worse, I'm a believer. For better or worse, I'm a believer. Found my voice in heresy, and I am a believer.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
Thank you. So that one's a little long, I think.
It's so anthemic though. Like it doesn't want to be radio short. You know what I mean?
I feel that, And I think there's a lot of good material, and I think there's a narrative thrust that I would lose by eliminating some of the lyrics. But I also think that halfway through the second verse, I'm ready to sing the chorus again. I'm like, what am I even doing? But then when I look at the second half of the second verse, I'm like, oh, but these lyrics are my favorite lyrics in the whole song. And I know we have to kill our darlings to make progress. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to lose this. Okay, so maybe I cut the first half of the second verse. But if I do, it lends no context for the second. Anyway, editing is crazy.
Yeah.
But I'll get there.
It's great song. The chord that starts the pre is like exactly what I was talking about before. Like, it's to me so surprising and so like inevitably satisfying.
That is that's a Beatles playbook move.
Okay.
You go to the 3 chord, but then you don't go to the 6 chord after like you're supposed to. So I'm very clearly in the key of C here. Everything I've used so far are very standard chords in the key of C. And then we go to this E major, and that wants to resolve here. That's what it, like classically speaking, that's what it does. This chord goes to this chord. But as we know, like from the Beatles and from all the rock bands after them, if you go to this chord, but then go back to, oh, you're like, oh, wait, you have more to say. By the way, that's also, I generally don't play John Lennon songs on this show because he was a fucking awful human being that beat both of his wives. But in the song Imagine, you may say I'm a dreamer. There it is. And then, but I'm not the only one. So he does that there. But then after that in the pre-chorus, somehow I'm sure of who we're going to be. That's like, that's, you know, I used to sit and wonder why, babe.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you know, anyway, so it's all like things that maybe I stole from somebody else or are just part of the universal language.
Yeah, there's no theft in.
Okay, good. I appreciate
songwriting.
I appreciate that. So yeah, that's what I'm in the process of right now.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
I wrote that song quietly. Like it was everybody in the house was asleep except for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was just like sitting with my quiet guitar, just going like, I knew it was going to be loud. I just happened to be singing it because I could imagine it that way. I just happened to be singing it quietly.
That's kind of great.
And it all came from the first line of the song. I knew I was writing about a specific place. The room was already created for me because I knew I was writing a set of songs about a certain
did a whole
time.
Princeton cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So
cool.
I'm not even going to lie. I was literally thinking about the kids in Saves the Day who are from Princeton. I never knew these kids, but a very good friend of mine kind of knew them when they were in high school. And he talked about them just bumming around town, being stupid high school kids in a rich white college town. And so, like, the line, I know this square mile like the back of my hand, I was like, that was one of those flashes of inspiration where you get the melody, where you get the lyrics, it all comes at once.
And then you get the road, right? You're like, oh, and now I also know the road to go down to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know what I have to say, and I know I can make it a list song to a certain extent, but I also I can't just make it a list song or it's going to get boring. So I have to give it a narrative angle too. And then I sang one verse. I improvised the chorus, thinking I was going to write a bunch of lyrics later on.
Cool.
I was like, I can't just keep saying we're going to be believers over and over again because that's stupid. I can't do that. So I was like, I'll fill that in later. And like, I think that in the Google Doc, the original one for it says like, we're going to be believers, ellipsis points in red, ellipsis points in reds, ellipsis in, meaning I'm going to put more shit there. And then I put the guitar down and I just listened to the melody for the first verse in my head. And I wrote the rest of the lyrics in like 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And then I went back and I tried to sing it. Like I said before, I tried to sing it to the melody I'd written before. And I sang the chorus thinking again, I got to fix this. And then it was 2:30 and I had to go to bed. Because I, started writing it at 1:30 or whatever.
Right.
And I woke up the next morning singing the chorus to myself.
That's a good sign.
And I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to sing that same line over and over again. I think I might add one more line to it, but that's up for debate with a good friend of mine who helps me edit sometimes. Shout out to Nam Wayne. But, we'll see how it goes. Fucking editing. It's a crazy thing. How about you play some music, though? We're still here.
All right. Yeah.
We're still hanging out. You want to do one? You want to do two? What are you feeling?
I can do one. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to get off the screen for this one because I've talked enough. And I'm going to let Bexarkana take over by herself. Let me mute this mic and take it away.
All right. This is one called Fall to Pieces. Let's see. Cold hands and foreign lands and one night stands in my bedroom. Chest tight, it hurts to fight when you show up bad. All I know is your hips and your lips and the overwhelm of your halo. On the wall is a map of the world. There's more space here between. Ooh, I'm barely breathing. Little thing, don't you do it to me. I'm barely breathing. On your way, what could kiss me so sweetly? Fall to pieces again. Fall to pieces again. Fall to pieces. Even if I asked you to, you never would see me through. You'd never see me through. All the way till morning time and come. Oh no, till you're all that I know how to do now. Fresh dew and ghosts of you with every view in Manhattan. Steel heat on Bleecker Street, sewers rising steam. Call you up just to hear you feel near you. One false move and a flashback. Your voice is a rising stream, and I can only drown. Oh, I'm barely breathing. Little thing, don't you do it to me. I'm barely breathing. On your way, you could kiss me so sweetly. Fall to pieces again. Fall to pieces again. Fall to pieces. Even if I asked you to, you never would see me through. But I'd never see you through. All the way till ever after it comes. You pull like a tide on me, but you know that I don't come gently. Now you can't set me free, and I need you consequently, darling. Oh no, it used to be so easy. Oh no. Electric and so running so easy. Oh
I love that one.
Thank
I
you.
know that one. I've heard you
Yeah.
play that. I love it.
Thank you.
So glad you played it. Oh my goodness.
It's funny how I mean, I had been in such a habit of, going out into the world and like, playing at various open mics. It's so fascinating to like, I don't know, the impulse is different in your bedroom, even if it's like to connect with people. It's just like so strange. In a way it's great because you're so relaxed, but also it's just different.
Yeah. Your song choices can be much more varied.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that barroom thing where only certain things are going to sell.
You can do the weird ones when you're in your bedroom.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I did one show. I forget when it was, but like it was like I had the lights practically off, and I just did like a whole hour of mellow, quiet songs.
Awesome.
And I think I got more feedback on that show than any other one I did during that span of time.
Yeah.
Because you can indulge that,
Vibe night.
Yeah, vibe night. We have to do a whole other show at some point, though, to talk about how your experiences as an actor and your training as an actor allow you to inhabit your own songs and actually perform them. Because something that a lot of singer-songwriters do actually poorly is perform their songs. And they forget that the part of it where they are, as much as we hate to say it, kind of entertaining, or at least the performance is as artistic a statement as the song itself. And I have to imagine that your experience as an actor and training as an actor is what allows you to do that in such a solid and like confident, convincing way.
Probably it just gives me like a bigger toolkit. Like there's so many like choices, right? Like the choice can be early Bob Dylan, but but if that's the choice and you lean into it, that's actually great because there's a way that can also draw people in. But like, yeah. So much of it is, what's weird is so much of it for me is about being in conversation with the room I'm in, which you don't really have in this medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. You must have similar as a teacher, you command a stage every day.
And I didn't come into my own as a performer or as a teacher until I started to recognize the fact that they are so connected. As soon as I started treating all of my lessons at school like a performance, and I started treating all my gigs as if I was teaching a class.
I love it.
Both of them instantaneously got 10 times better than they had been before.
I mean, I remember being at Freddie's and watching you do a gig, and you closed out the night with SSRI, and you were just but you've been doing it all night. But this was like the culmination of this, like you had us in the palm of your hand. It was like watching a preacher,
or a teacher.
But like, you know what I mean? This idea that like we felt in good hands and we would go probably farther than we would have gone otherwise. You know what I mean? Because we trusted you. It was super exciting.
It is interesting to hear that from an actor, because that is something I think a lot about. I have no training as like an actor per se since I was in high school. I'm that kid. I did drama as a kid, but that's it. So anything I've done after that, I figured out on the fly. And I like, I would love to hear more thoughts on that at some point, because it is something that I think songwriters and singer-songwriters in particular often need to hear a little more about. Not all of them. Some of them are quite good, but like, it's always a choice. You can't not make a choice. When you don't make a choice and you go up there and just do it, like that's only going to work for one out of every squintillion people, and those are the ones that get gobbled up and marketed as pop stars. Like everybody else has to make a choice in this world. Anyway, just a weird thought.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, yeah, happy to. I've got.
Yeah, I think this show is going to turn into other shows, because every time just about every time, every week, towards the end of the show, which I mean, we're, I guess, kind of coming to at this point. It's fucking 10:30. We stumble into something that I feel is a much more rich vein of conversation. And I feel like I want to do a show with no guitars where we just talk about that. But then I realized that I don't think anybody would actually want to watch that because I'm not fucking James Lipton over here.
And James Lipton made me crazy. Like as a young actor who only wanted to watch the actors I love get under the hood and talk about the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
That series was gold for one season. And then it devolved into like, I don't need to hear this person's Wikipedia biography.
Right.
I want to hear them talk about the weird nuts and bolts craft, which most people don't care about. But it's a show for me, please. It's a show for actors.
Dude, do you know why you're on the show? Do you know why I do this? Because all these other songwriters have fucking podcasts where they say they're talking about songwriting. None of them actually talk about songwriting at any point.
Really?
They talk about like that person's life as a musician and touring. And that's cool too. There's nothing wrong with that conversation. That's interesting in its own right. But like, I want to ask how you get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so you need to start a new Inside the Actor Studio that you are the host of, because
Under the Hood.
Yeah, I love that. Under the Hood with Bexarkana. Oh, Mark is watching. Oh, so good to see you, Mark. Now I really feel like I'm at Sound Club. He said I did a show at Freddy's with a 70s tape recorder. It is true. I don't know if you and Bex are talking about the same show.
Maybe. It was definitely in the Bum Pinky era.
Yeah, I love doing those cassette shows. I can't do them often because I'm really locked into a set list, because I put the stuff on the tape, because it's not about changing the tape and shit. Okay. It's about being able to walk around the room, and that's why I carry the little cassette recorder with the speaker. It's not just a gimmick, Mark, although the gimmick is great. Also practical, because it frees me to walk around and do my thing in a room like Freddy's.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would never work if I was the kind of songwriter that was like able to play on the theater circuit. Like a really like big time singer. Alicia Keys couldn't pull that move off, because like she's on stage in a theater at her piano doing her thing, whereas I can take my cassette player into the back room at Freddy's or around Faulkner or some other, New York City backroom venue.
Yeah, it's a great way to like break the fourth wall and make it feel fresh. Right.
I mean, how many shows have we seen in New York City?
Yeah.
All of them? How many songwriters have we watched perform?
Yeah.
So anyway. But we were going to continue this conversation later about performing as a songwriter, because I think it's a whole nother avenue. But it is fucking 10:30, and even though my school is closed yet again tomorrow because COVID cases. Oh yeah, testing came into the building yesterday. We're closed tomorrow.
Man,
I don't know if we're closed for 1 day or 10 days. We'll find out by the end of the day tomorrow.
They don't tell you?
They don't know yet, because what they did is they randomly tested 20% of the school population yesterday.
Okay.
And then it takes 24 hours to turn the test results around. Okay. I got swabbed yesterday. I came back negative. Thank you very much. But two people, I don't know if there were students or teachers in our school or the school downstairs that we share a campus with, came back positive. So now what they do is they take the next at least 24 hours for the contact and trace team to call around and gather information about those two cases to see whether or not they're somehow connected to one another and how many people may have been exposed, at which point they determine whether they need to quarantine a class full of students and teachers or an entire school. So we middle schools returned returned to school in the middle of February after having been remote since November. And my school has not had one full week yet. Every time testing comes through, we lose at least a day, and twice we've lost 10 days. It's crazy, absolutely insanity, So I'm closed tomorrow, but I still got to wake up and teach on the screen, set up my light ring, set up my reflector,
beautiful lighting,
get my podcast mic going. So the kids are like, "You look like you're on a podcast," and I'm like,
"Be like, that's right. You're lucky."
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to your class podcast. Yeah. I got to tell you, I at the moment, because I prefer just teaching at home to this back and forth shit. I will always love teaching in person more. I will always love singing songs with my students more than just about anything in the entire universe, short of like hugging my own wife and children. But this back and forth shit is driving me nuts.
I'm sure the kids too.
It
must be disorienting for everyone.
It is. And every time we have to make the jump because we have two separate schedules. We have the remote schedule, and then we have this other schedule for when the building is open, and some of the kids are there and some of the kids are at home.
Oh, God.
So the kids have to a handful of kids that expected to come to school tomorrow are now going to be at home. Also, the kids that expected to be at home tomorrow are going to be at home, except all of them are following a different schedule than we follow today or Monday, which is kind of a school level decision. And as crazy as it sounds, it makes sense at my school based on the size of the school and things like that. But like this back and forth shit isn't working for anybody.
Yeah, no, which end is up? Like, sounds like just so much to keep track of.
It is. It's crazy. I am strangely looking forward tomorrow because I know when I have my 3 classes and I know when I'm going to see them. I know what the time frame is. I know how many kids to expect. They should all know when they're supposed to be here because we had so many months between I guess it was the first week of November until the middle of February, where all the middle schools and high schools in the city were fully remote. Because we established so many routines with remote learning during that time, as much as remote learning fucking sucks, it's a suckiness that we knew collectively. Me and all my kids knew what the procedures were. I knew what technology I was dealing with because I have a pretty dope setup.
You can't just show, you need tech to be able to do what you do.
Right. So I have my MIDI controller running into this thing, running to that thing, running into a mixer, this thing over here. I can't then bring it all to school with me. So what happens is when the school building is open, the kids that come in person that day get this. Well, no, they get this. But the kids at home are getting a probably less techie, exciting experience than they would if I were at home just teaching remotely. And anyway,
No, but that makes a lot of sense because a lot of it is what did I plan this for? Oh, it's a remote lesson? Cool. I planned it.
Yeah. And then at some point I was like, well, I'm just going to plan everything to work remotely. Right. But then when I'm in person, it feels kind of dry. And I'm a pretty good improviser as a teacher. It's one of my strengths, the ability to kind of really think on my feet as a teacher. I've also been doing this for fucking 22 years or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm old. But this reimagining a lesson that I've been teaching versions of for a few years to be remote and get into a groove with that, to then have to in the same day rejigger it back to a masked experience where kids are not participating at the same level, because again, they're not used to being in front of people.
It's one thing to improvise. It's another thing to have to redo a wet tech. You know what I mean? Like they're two different.
And I don't mean just the tech. I mean like even the actual flow of the lesson. Like the order that I present things, the way I choose to say things, because like while I don't have a script per se, there are certain lines that I always use to get concepts across because I know they work, because I have honed them over X amount of years to say, if I say it like this, it's going to land with more kids than if I say it like that. But the weird thing is, because I've taken the process of being a teacher seriously for so long, that, and hopefully as an actor you'll understand this, there are not only physical gestures but also facial expressions that go along with some of these vocal mannerisms, and I'm literally unable to use them with a mask on.
Right.
Like if I'm saying something that's a little weird or off color because I know it's going to play well with my 14-year-olds, like if I have a wry smile on my face, I'm in on the joke and everybody's laughing. If I don't, I'm just some fucking weird.
And you're creepy, inappropriate guy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, I've always depended on singing in my classroom as the ultimate tool at building community. Like, everybody in my classroom sings. We don't sing because we want to be stars, but if you want to be a soloist, you have a chance to do that. But if you come into my classroom and all of the 8th graders have to come in my classroom,
wow,
we sing. You have to sing. Never solo if you don't want to. The smallest they'll ever make you do is sing in like a group of 4. But like, we're all singing. We're all going to go to the back of the room and sit in chairs, and Murphy's going to play the guitar or the piano, and we're going to sing this Otis Redding song. We're going to sing some Taylor Swift song. We're going to sing whatever. And I'm lucky that I get to do that because it's literally my content area. But what it also does is it means that kids are that much more open to all experiences in my class. So when the principal walks in and wonders why so many kids have their hands up, or why kids feel comfortable making jokes in my class, or why like kids just literally just look relaxed, they think it's like I've waved some magic wand. And the answer is always like, no, we just sing.
But you got everyone to sing.
Right. Well, that's just it. But like that's the magic wand. We fucking sang. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. Other teachers that don't play piano could do fucking karaoke with the kids and it's going to work well. Like, just fucking sing. And because singing's a super spreader, and because I'm seeing kids in groups of 7 or 8 as opposed to 28 or 29, like we just can't. Like that entire tool is taken out of my toolkit as a teacher, which means the ability to build that sort of community and like really explore what we believe is creative people and musicians, like whether they're going to grow up and be professional musicians or never make music again. My goal is that they all leave my classroom capable of like singing a song with people just for funsies, writing a song, like doing some online music editing and like composing type stuff, listening to any kind of music and like having a way in, whether it's your favorite song or least favorite song. Yeah. Like just practical musical skills. The only way that kids are willing to engage with some of those things is if they're already in a place where they can feel comfortable. If the only way that kids are really willing to look me in the eye and be like, that song you just played is the stupidest fucking song I've ever heard, and here's why, which is a great discussion to have, like they're a lot less likely to go to that place, you know, because we haven't had an opportunity to build up the same rapport. because of the inconsistency, because of having masks on. And I'm not saying anything against masks.
Just that it's
an
a whole
inconvenience.
different world.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny, I was just saying today to people that I feel more connected to my kids that have been fully remote, like learning from home the whole year, than I do to the kids that have been back and forth between the building and home. The kids that I just know I'm going to have on the screen, and most of them don't even turn cameras on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We don't have a camera policy at my school, which cuts both ways. From a trauma-informed perspective, we are doing the right thing as a school. From a more practical perspective, it's very problematic, but that's a different discussion for a different day. But the kids that have been online with me all year, like that, there's way more consistency with that. They know they see me the same all the time without a mask on, because obviously I don't have a mask on at home. And when I teach at school, we get to go into when we teach online from school, we get to go to a private space and be in a room by ourselves and unmask. So the kids have seen this. Different hair length, different shirts, but they've seen the same me, the same jokes throughout the year. The kids that are sometimes in, sometimes out are getting this weird mixed bag of an experience. And I've tried to normalize it for them as much as possible because I'm the fucking adult. But at the same time, like, I just don't think I've done it that well, you know?
I mean, it sounds
I hate to say that.
Just the idea that New York City kids right now, as they're going through this, get to come to your class and have this music experience makes me so thrilled. Like,
it makes, I get to have this experience too.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I don't like the way the public treats teachers, and as much as I would love to get paid more than I do, I will say that, like, New York City literally pays me money in a regular year to sing Otis Redding songs with 14-year-olds and then talk about, like, how they were written and how to compare them to other songs. And that's aligned to, like, national standards. It feels a little bit like a scam sometimes.
It's like, beautiful.
Like, I'm like, yeah. And I always tell the kids, I was like, I'm going to trick you into learning this year. You're going to think you ain't learning shit most of the time. But then you're going to walk out of here in June, like, knowing all this stuff. You know?
What is that, theory in my pocket? Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that got in there.
We don't get too deep into theory, but, like, I would, like, yeah. And I like getting paid to sing Otis Redding songs with 14-year-olds.
That's amazing.
It's a really, really good way to spend a day. It's really, you know, short of just sitting at home in my underwear, playing my guitar, drinking coffee. I can't imagine many better ways to, like, spend my time. You know, I feel bad for all the fucking English teachers out there that don't love books. Because they exist. It's sad.
Oh, man.
You know, I feel bad for the science teachers that aren't naturally inquisitive and scientifically minded. I'm very lucky that the science teachers at my school are very much that.
Cool.
Like the science teacher at my school and I were talking about some crazy ass science shit this morning, and I could only half wrap my brain around a third of what he was saying, but he was so committed to exploring these things that had nothing to do with what his class is learning, but this is just who he is and what he does. I was like, man, these kids are lucky.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's amazing.
School's all right sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I have it tomorrow morning.
You're gonna rock it.
Thank you. Have it at home with all my gear. Thank you so much for hanging out and shooting the shit.
Thank you. This was such a pleasure to see you and to hang out and hear some of your music.
This is more than we've ever been able to talk at Faulkner or anywhere else. And I like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it was secretly an excuse. And when we do eventually get to regather, whatever that looks like, I feel like there's so many of you big city folk people that have been on the show that, like, I feel like I'll have so much more to say now.
It's going to feel so good when we finally get in a room together again. It's going to feel nice.
I played my first outdoor gig
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
I don't even know, but I know it was glorious. Like I think it went well, but selfishly, I don't give a shit how it went. All I know is that my band and I got up in front of other human beings with the intention of enlightening and entertaining them while drinking beer and playing songs we love. And after a couple of hours, we had some success in doing that. And we got to be, 2 out of 3 of us are fully vaccinated. The third of us is halfway there. By the time our next gig rolls around, we'll all be fully vaccinated, which means that, I can hug my bass player, who's also Uncle Jay to my kids. I can hug my bass player before and after the show. It feels good to be able to do that. It feels good to be able to make that contact, that human contact you can only make through playing music with another human being. I got so pissed off at my drummer for Russian tempos. And then I realized, I was like, I love that I'm pissed off about this. Because
that means we're in the same room.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm pissed off at Tim because he's going too fast. Oh my God, Tim and I are playing music together. Oh my God. Yes.
Nice.
So the outdoor gigs are starting back. I don't know what your safety and comfort level is. That's up to you, but they're happening now, and that is exciting for me. Because I will say New York City is ready for fucking live music.
Even in the park, I think there's going to be so much music in the park.
Even last summer, we played in the parks all last summer, and seriously, bands were poaching each other's spots in parks in the city.
Wow.
We rolled up, and we're like, that was our spot last Sunday. We didn't say it out loud, but we were thinking, why are you still our fucking spot? And we got to find another spot in the same park so you could walk around Sunset Park or McCarran Park and have the opportunity to hear 3 or 4 live bands.
Great bands, yeah.
It was pretty magical. And I think this summer, when a few more people have been vaccinated and people are getting out, but hopefully still being cautious, I think that it is going to be a great summer for live music in New York City.
Yeah.
Maybe not Kendrick Lamar at Governor's Ball or anything like that. But in terms of your friend's band or your friend and their friends singing songs they wrote, I think we need to take all of this opportunity we've created on the internet and we need to bring it to the park system around the city. We've all practiced a new version of gathering, whether it's because we've had to go to work or because we've wanted to see family so desperate. We've all practiced doing this a new way. So now we can reimagine what a performance looks like, where we can put something together in a park with or without a permit and just ask people nicely to sit a certain distance apart and know that they practiced doing it. Sorry, no, I'm just dreaming. I'm going to shut the fuck up. I've been saying goodbye for 40 minutes. It is time to go.
It's so nice to see you.
Talk to everybody that's still out there, because we still have people watching, about when and where they can hear you, because you have a regular live stream series going on as well.
Yes, I do. I do a live stream on the 2nd and the 4th Saturday of the month at 8:00 Eastern. And usually it's just me doing songs, but this coming Saturday, I'm super excited. It's National Poetry Month, and a friend of mine who's an amazing poet is joining and is going to be sharing a bunch of poems from her new book. Her name is Nehesayu Degans, and she's a phenomenal poet. So I'm super excited about this Saturday at 8. It is, it's on my Bexarkana Facebook page live, and then I post the replay to both Facebook and Instagram.
All right, well, people can see right now in front of them that they should be following you on Instagram and Facebook at Bexarkana. And I'm just going to let this scroll across so people know that you're doing a live stream every 2nd and 4th Saturday, 8 p.m. It is National Poetry Month. It's also Autism Awareness Month.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so between my wife, the poet, and my son, the autistic person, It is a big month in the Murphy.
It's April.
It is also my birthday this month. Yeah, very. And my son's birthday. We share a birthday.
Wait, the same day?
Yeah, totally. So
That's
exciting.
amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Happy early birthday.
Yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, make sure that if you are here because you know me, make sure you're giving Bex a follow to see what she is up to at all times. If you're here because you know Bex and you're seeing me for the first time, go ahead and give me a follow because I'm here every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, usually with a special guest. Let's see, who's here next week? I was just looking at earlier today.
They're always fun.
Thank you. Oh, Elisa Flynn is up next week. I don't think you know Elisa Flynn because she's from a totally different circle of people, but she's in a circle of songwriters that I used to run with, and she is a totally different voice. She's like, I always tell her she is like, even though she's never listened to any of his music or hadn't last I spoken to her, she writes like goth Sondheim tunes.
I'm gonna need to hear that.
Yeah, like it's definitely rock music, but it's like goth Sondheim.
So cool.
It is really good. Elisa Flynn, she'll be on the show next Tuesday.
Awesome.
As for everything else, I hope that you guys had as good a night as you possibly could have. I hope that you are looking forward to having a good rest of your week. I will see you hopefully next Tuesday. I will see Bex hopefully sooner rather than later. Everybody have a great one, and I will see you all on the other side. Have a great night, guys. Come on.